baby, yeah. It will let monko. It will let monko. The check away, say move front, the son of Kobaka, and wine and madan. So Jagella, so pressure on the coin of ratio, yeah. Come my yappy, but they are soon the chant and a man, share. No. Shama can say, Namemudi and Washi. Shame Buddha, dear Namemudi and more than it. Shame Freedom and Dozira, come in me more day. Budo ya Nana Yamina Betchere Minu Bagura Cafe, Atravias Jamansai, Yano ya Nana Yamina Betchere Maya Woo campaign, Atravias Jamansai, Budo ya Nana Yamina Betchere. And if I was a many, under me, who are Yashe? If I would to my baby, I know it is our body. If I was a many, under what did I be? If I would to my dynamic. What can't be company? Mini would they want to buy? Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. And till me day and Casa, Mini would they or the bar. Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. And Serabe, watch a mona me a be mine. And I know what even I may, or no, I am a Masai. And Serabe, watch a mona me a be mine. And I know what even I may, or no, I am a Masai. Why though? Chamasis, Masias and a gas oil. The men who ning in one other way. It's a food between me dash a bit. Kawabu Muslim men who defense. It's a young pauses, yeah. Happy so called there. 1, 2, 3, Aja, a D. If I want some many, under me, who are you? If I want to my baby, I know it was our body. If I want some many, under what did I be? If I want to what can't be company? Any would they want to buy? Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. And see me day and Casa, Mini would they or the bar. Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. Okay, you are for me piano. What will be very asking not in the sun and way? On the power and I say them, we Mary. Oh, I won't fail away. What will be very asking? Oh, yeah, no, there was a on the power and I say them, we say Mary. Baby Jet, give me my mom. You are my baby. I wanna see you smiling, see you laughing. You are my Jerry. Oh, Gaga, you are my babe. I know go feel run and leave you behind. This be from you and Juliet. If you wait, you deserve to be my wife. You deserve it, I know they lie. You know they feel well without my mic. What a pity, no bag me. If you wait, you deserve to be my wife. Hey, no do ye way. Hey, no do ye way. And if I was a many, under me, who are you? If I want to my baby, I know that was our body. If I was a many, under what did I be there? If I want to my dynamic. Yeah, what can't be company? In the wood, you want to buy. Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. And see me day and Casa, Mini would they or the bar. Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. And see me day and Casa, Mini would they or the bar. Yeah, or me no, you know, you tell you want to kind. Powerhouse.
I just ensured that, I played a Ghana classic, Happy Independence, and welcome to Africa on Focus. I am looking really festive for the season because yesterday, yes, Ghana celebrated its 64th independence. We celebrated, let me just say, in lockdown mode, and did just that. I think as for the connection, okay, quite getting okay now, but if it doesn't, I'll just flip to music and get back. This is on lockdown sessions, as I would call it. Temporarily, next week we will be back in the studio to talk some more on Africa Unfocused. Welcome to this Sunday, Sunday 7 p.m. A little over 7 p.m., coming to you live from Amsterdam. And here on African Focus is where we share our success stories. And I'm your host, Miss Abba. Of course, you are listening to High Radio, the voice of the next generation. And High Radio is Amsterdam's most dynamic satellite and digital radio station that promotes African culture and African entertainment in and around the diaspora. So, welcome again. If you are watching the show on Facebook, make sure that you follow and like the High Radio page. If you spotted me on YouTube at Africa on Focus, which is the channel for this particular broadcast, make sure that you subscribe and stay informed and catch up with all of the episodes that we get to air. This is a celebration edition because Ghana's independence was celebrated yesterday. So that's why I'm looking extra festive and I kind of like it. So I'm a look more festive every day. Today we will be having plenty of discussion. So if you are tuning in on Facebook, feel free to share. Feel free to like on YouTube as well. But if you would like to be more up and close with the discussions, we are opening our phone lines. And through the phone lines, I'll be getting you through so that our listeners can hear what you have to say about what we are going to talk about today. I will ensure the number comes on the screen. The number is a plus 316-847-36402. And I'll be ensuring that I'll be sharing that, of course. Today, we are talking to an expert from GGD, which is Public Health Service of the Netherlands, to talk about the Ghana community in the Netherlands and the effects of COVID-19. Also, the members of Let's Chat Africa, which is our monthly discussion panel. I'll be joining us on the show later on after 8 p.m. to talk to us about interesting budding topics that have been happening around Africa, the continent. And of course, if people in the Netherlands will be voting this 17th of March. I'm your host again with Miss Abba, and of course, alongside my co-host Johnny, we will be making sure that we will provide the latest and the best of tunes. Of course, before we get things started, we are really excited to have some collaborating partners that make this show possible and that ensure things are running, that ensure that people are able to catch up with the show on different platforms. Mind you, Africa on Focus comes on High Radio every Sunday, but we also have made it possible that you get to catch the recap of the most impactful conversations on podcasts, which is absolutely a thing today. And you can find our podcast, Africa on Focus, the podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all of them. And we've also recently announced a collaboration with Aftown, which is the only African music only app that I'm really proud to collaborate with. Make sure that you see what our sponsors, some would say sponsors, but I call them partners, they make this show possible. And the first one is that we have the lovely company called By Austin. By Austin is a branding company, actually. And let me make sure I show this right. This is different from when you are in the studio. By Austin is a branding, communications, and business development company helping you elevating your brand. Are you in looking for a personal brand? or your company brand. Brand now is everything, and by Austin really makes that happen. To ensure that your strategy is on point, everything makes sense from the social media, digital part up into your business operations. By Austin ensures that just that. And here for Africa in Focus, obviously the podcast management, the content for the show, all of that is arranged and strategically pointed out by Austin. Another company that we are really glad to have on board partnering is beartist.eu. Beartist.eu. Beartist is a web hosting company. You can get your full package website with them or just have it updated and run. I know managing website could be quite a challenge, and with Be Artist, which is your complete website and graphic design solution, whether you are promoting your business, showcasing your work. Or opening your store or starting a blog. We do all, and that is for website. Make sure that you visit www.beartist.eu. Today, myself and Donny will be talking about a lot of things. But before that, let's catch into some music before we get Donny on. Plus, we also have a very special guest from the public health service here in the Netherlands to talk to us Ghanaians some more about making sure that you know our health regarding COVID-19 is fully and properly organized. In the meantime, let's make sure that we listen to some music. Today, I have ensured that, you know, it stays full Ghana music. Why? Because of Ghana independence celebration yesterday. You need to get on that train. So that is why it's a special themed Ghana hit list to make sure that you can get to dance wherever you are. We'll be right back. But in the meantime, let's go and listen to Castro Destroyer with his record called African Girls, which is a song I really love. If you ask me, it's a true classic. Myself and Donny will be back to talk to you some more about what's going on in Africa. Let's go.
From Africa gets the beat, dance to the groove and feel the heat. I swear someone not see you know you never almost one traffic. Africa got the beat, dance to the groove and feel the heat. Namoya sana, yo, 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 namoya sana, namoya sana, namoya sana, yo. I tell you, say I the conquer. You see them a white them they wonder. And me be the under the fire. African get them a get swagger. Oh baby, you are gonna follow away. Cause you turn me on, you bring me joy, you make me go away. African get the beat, them be sweet, sexy like cheese. With your back on, no. With your back on, no. Dance with your back on, no. With your back on, no. From Africa gets the beat, dance to the groove and feel the heat. I swear someone not see you know you never almost one traffic. Africa got the beat, dance to the groove and feel the heat. Namoya sana, yo, 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 namoya sana, namoya sana, namoya sana, yo. Asamoah, baby, Ghana mama won't no defense, no retreat, no surrender. I'm more fetake, and say Yakuma, Linda, Barbara, Monica, Jessica, Pamela, Sarah, Eve in a diner, Mujina, come on, Muyo go out, Asamoah, Muyo go out. Baby, you they make my mind is cut down. Ghana girl, come on, move it. I did that, then you get it out. Baby, Jessie, Sana, Asamoah, Sana, now I'm taking over, make no wonder why. My baby so fly, make you ask me why. Cause she keep me going, oh, what motivate. My love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Send ya moye and ya sana, ya fo. Send ya doti and no sana, modoko. Send ya moye and no sana, ya fo. We are back on, no. 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 We are back on. As was said, I want you, that's your home. From Africa, get the beat, dance to the groove and feel the heat. As was someone until you know, you need almost one traffic. Dance to the groove and feel the heat. Namoya sana, yo, namoya sana, yo. Namoya sana, yo, namoya sana, yo. Namoya sana, yo, namoya sana, yo. Namoya sana. Sukure matofui alanta class mamato. Perfect. 1G Entertainment. Castro. K2. And baby Jet. If you don't know, you don't know.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to Africa on Focus. Let me just sit right and ensure that you get to see me looking festive for the season because yesterday it was actually our Ghana independence celebration. So I have to make sure I bring on the colors as well. Welcome to Africa on Focus. I am your host, Miss Aba, and every week we get to share our success stories about Africans, global Africans making an impact, whether that be from career to business and all of that. And today I mentioned that, I am listing all kinds of Ghana music because it was the Independence Day celebration. So you could seriously find it as a way of celebrating from wherever you are in lockdown mode. Myself and Johnny will be talking about a very interesting topic today. And this is really one that has been, well, let's just say an unending topic, among the Ghanaian community here. And of course, the issues surrounding COVID and what the status of that is now. We've been talking about it these last couple of weeks. And we even said, it's a COVID anniversary. It's a year ago since, the first case in the Netherlands was discovered. And we were really reflecting on some of the changes that have gone. And of course, in the Ghanaian community, there have been endless discussions on, the impact of COVID and what's truth and all of that. And here on the show, we've made it our responsibility, let me just put it that way, to engage with the experts in the field, from doctors. We've had Dr. Sabine, we've had all kinds of people to really talk about what's truth and what's not. Let me just get Donnie in and introduce in a bit our special guest who will be talking to us on more about COVID. Hello, Donnie. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I am good. I am good. I'm good. Happy Independence.
Thank you.
Happy Independence. I
Happy
know
Independence.
that's the word for it. Happy Independence. Did you do anything in particular?
No, but I did. You know what's funny about this independence or independence nowadays? Like even you receiving let's say greetings or congratulations from non-Ghanaians. So I
Yeah.
have like, people just hit me up, hey, happy independence to
Yeah.
you, Donny, and they're like, these are my Dutch buddies and stuff. So that's
Right.
always fun to have. But yeah, that's cool.
Right.
I haven't done any. I didn't do anything in particular. How about you?
You know what? Me and a few friends, obviously under a COVID-proof environment, we, did a few dance moves to some hip life records and stuff to really enjoy the momentum. I think it was for us to really enjoy what Ghana music and all of that means to us, how it unites us as friends
Yeah,
because we're predominantly Ghanaians. Even the one who isn't Ghanaian knows, the culture and celebrates that with us. So
yeah,
I think that was a way for us to celebrate the Independence Day. It still has to have some sort of it has meaning to me, but I am looking for like a way to celebrate it, where I can like
Mm.
make that maybe a tradition in the family or something. I'm still exploring it and understanding how I can do it besides back in the day, go to a party or a hall party or something and just,
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
Oh, yeah. Because I was thinking probably even go to an African restaurant for Independence Day, but hey, okay, you're now stuck with COVID, so even
Man,
those things.
man,
But what
it's
could be nice, what could be nice though, is to have a, let's say, a Ludo night or Ludo evening with your small family if you have that
okay.
Ludo's game at home. So that I think that's a nice way
Okay.
to also celebrate independence, to
Right.
just do African or Ghanaian games. Have a game night or
Korean games,
something like
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah. For the
Yeah.
diasporans, I think that's not a bad idea. I think that's
Yes.
not. Absolutely. Well, let's get right into it because we have a special guest who is waiting for us, and we have a
Hmm.
very. I think this guest will be someone who's working on the front line to really talk to us about COVID-19. We've touched on the topic of the myths, the facts, the truth surrounding COVID-19. But in
Yes.
this case, this is quite more specific, obviously, because the radio has also started to support a particular campaign that is going on to focus on, the
Hmm.
African community or the Ghanaian community specifically. It basically is that also not long ago, the Ghanaian community in Amsterdam, as one of the minority groups that participated in a special study on the level of corona infection among five population groups, conducted by a team of scientists from the Amsterdam UMC, was confronted with outcome of the study in manners that, without intending, created both panic and aggregation within the community. So we're here
Hmm.
to like bring light to that. And after series of consultations among key stakeholders, including some eminent persons from the community, a decision was reached on the need for a special awareness media campaign on the challenges posed by the pandemic to the community. And today's interview is actually the second of the series interview programs as part of media activities planned for the campaign. So let me get our special guest in, who is called Iris from GGD, which is the National Health, the Public Health Service here in the Netherlands. And also, in the meantime, before we get this conversation going, we really would love to ensure that this remains interactive as possible. And if you would like to call or you have other questions that you would also like to comment on, aside from the Facebook comment box or YouTube, feel free to call 06847 which is 06847 so that we can interact with you. I will share the number on the screen and so that we get to talking. Let's have Iris to come on the show. Let's do this. Hello, good afternoon, Iris.
Hi, hi everyone.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Um, Congratulations on this celebratory day.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. It's very well. It's quite of um we're sort of lockdown celebrating. How has been the lockdown for you as a a specialist, health specialist, let's just say?
Um, well, as a medical doctor, I have the chance that I get to go to work, so I don't have to be at home all the time,
Yeah.
which puts me in a lucky position, I guess. And other than that, I've quite been enjoying the quiet.
I definitely would understand that. So before we go into some, some interesting topics that relate to our health, the community, some of the news, the facts surrounding COVID-19, could you share with us a bit of who Iris is?
Um, I'm a medical doctor, and at the moment I work with the public health department on corona. And in previous years, I've worked in many different places, both in hospitals in the Netherlands, but also in hospitals and refugee camps all around the world.
Yeah. All right. So that's a worldwide experience you would have, to say the least.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we have sets of questions, obviously, connecting to some of the things that have been going on, and specifically the Ghanaian community. The topic of COVID-19 has been, I think, very much present everywhere in the Netherlands. But from the advent of the pandemic, many people have bought into conspiracy theories of all kinds, and to the extent that a good number of people still think that corona is not real. So far, is there any scientifically hard or reliable information to clear the mind of listeners concerning this?
Um, So coronaviruses have been with us for a long time,
Yeah,
and we've known them quite well in terms of research. But
yeah,
probably most people have heard of, for example, the SARS epidemic
yeah,
before, which was also a type of coronavirus. And we know that coronaviruses are coming from animals. So at some point they jumped from animals to man. This is something that's quite common in infectious diseases. As long as there have been animals and men, diseases have jumped from animals to men. Like
yeah,
some diseases you might know are like the bird flu, or worse, for example, Ebola.
yeah.
And in the case of coronavirus, the previous ones, like SARS, we know they came from bats.
Mhm.
Um, so we think that this time the same thing happened, but exactly when and where it happened is something that is still being researched at the moment. We're still waiting for
Yeah,
the results.
right. And so far, the idea is that it came from Wuhan.
Yes, that's the most common theory there is at the moment.
Yeah,
And the idea is that in Wuhan there are markets where a lot of animals are being sold.
yeah,
So it's a place where there's a lot of animals, a lot of people, which makes it an ideal place for a disease to jump from animal to man.
right, right. That is quite intense. Because on a global scale, a lot of people have been blaming, oh, it's the crazy, which is it, delicacies or the type of food, of the Chinese because they eat dogs too, all kinds of crazy comments that we hear. But it's also good to know just what you said, like it's been a classic case whereby something like a virus is transmitted from an animal to a person. So that is quite it kind of gives it an idea, like, okay, even though it doesn't happen every day, but it does happen more. Let me just put it that way. And
Yeah, it's
in term, yeah,
sorry. I just wanted to say that it's very common. Also, for example, in the Netherlands, we can catch diseases from our cats or from our dogs. So it's something
okay,
that is very common in everyday
yeah,
life.
yeah. It's just that this case have gotten a bit out of hand. Let me just we can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at, the spread of the virus, if I even look back at last year, I think we were really in the first phase. People were very scared. It wasn't really, we weren't sure of how the disease transmits. Now we have gotten into a point where we know more, or at least that's the impression I'm getting. In terms of the spread of the virus, what are some of the scientifically proven ways of how the virus spreads that we should be mindful of?
Mm. So we know that the coronavirus is a virus that likes to stay in the airways. which is why it causes symptoms like coughing, for example. And it can spread when you breathe out droplets that stay in the airways. So when you breathe or when you speak or when you cough, you can spread these droplets that can have the coronavirus, and it can go to others. And there are two common ways in which it spreads. One is through direct contact. So for example, if you cough into your hand and then you shake someone else's hand and he uses his hand to rub his eyes, for example, that's a way of transmitting. And that's why we say don't cough in your hand, but in your elbow, and don't shake hands anymore. And the other way is just by, like I said, breathing out or coughing. The droplets can go into the air, and then someone standing close by to you can breathe in the air with those droplets and can get infected as well. And that's why we say to always keep those 1.5 meter distance to make sure that those droplets don't go directly to someone else.
Right.
So I understand. And how about physical contact? So if you don't, let's say you hold in your breath, but then you still have physical contact with your with your neighbor,
Like a hug.
is that still transmits through like your hands and stuff, or only when it goes into your body?
And so if you hold your breath, then at least you won't be transmitting those droplets. But the problem is that before cuddling the other person, you will have, for example, touched your nose or your eyes and then touched your clothes. And then if you hug, you can also transmit it to the other one's clothes, and then they will touch their clothes. And so it's not a bulletproof idea.
Okay, and it becomes only harmful when it enters into the body, so not when it's on the surface of it, right?
Yes, that's true. So it has to enter the body in your airways to become harmful. Yep.
Okay.
Right. And looking at that, because pretty much the social distancing is really real. However, the government have still figured that people do get it from like the environment of friends and families. So there's probably something going on there, probably the hugs and kisses or anything of that still, causes the virus to transmit. Could you tell us a bit about the symptoms or some of the cases where at what point have people discovered that they've had it? Did they discover it at the tests? What are some of the well-known symptoms that really come back, let's say most of the time, according to you?
So that's a difficult question because the coronavirus is a typical virus of the airways, which means that it looks exactly like, for example, the common cold or the flu. So it's difficult for people to know the difference. So just the common symptoms are, for example, a blocked nose or a runny nose, throat pain, coughing, feeling tired. And in some people, they can get more sick, like when you have the flu. And then you can get fevers or, for example, shortness of breath or pressure on your breast.
Yeah. Okay. And I've heard from, because last week, for instance, we've had somebody on the show that has had COVID. And pretty much from a lot of the cases that I hear is that they say, okay, this is more than just your usual flu. This is different. Would you say that is scientifically proven, or is that just people's experience? Could you share a bit more about that?
I think that what makes it different from the common flu is that it's a lot more contagious. So a lot more people get sick at the same time. And in some people, it can cause more severe symptoms. Which is why more people, they have to go to the hospital because they need help breathing, for example.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Get that. One thing that we also want to know, because if we have to connect it to the Ghanaian community here in the Netherlands, one of the conversations that have been going on are about antibodies or antibodies, and I got so many questions about it. I think what a lot of people think is that antibodies are meant as a particular resistance against COVID-19. People saying, oh, people from this and this ethnic background have more antibodies. Could you share with us what antibodies exactly mean, and if we are to be afraid of it or not?
Mm. Um, yeah. Antibodies are something that your body makes when you get an infection, any kind of infection, but also with corona. And they are like little soldiers your body makes to fight off an infection.
Right.
And they also stay in your body. And the next time you get presented with the same infection, they will be activated very quickly and start fighting very quickly, which usually means that the second time you get sick, you won't get very sick like the first time.
Right.
Um, and in the case of corona, doctors, they use antibodies to see if someone has previously had the infection. But we know that a lot of people who have gotten the infection, coronavirus once, can get it again. So while they protect you a little bit, we know that they don't protect you from getting it again for everyone.
Okay. Right.
So it's a good thing if you have antibodies, because it's possible that your body will help you the next time that you get it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you are immune to ever having it again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Right. So if I understand it, you're still endangering other people if you have. How do you even discover that somebody has the antibodies? Is it a blood test, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a test of the blood. So the test has to be done by a doctor, and they draw some blood from your arm. And then in the laboratory, they can magically find those antibodies.
Right. That is really interesting. That is really interesting. So, from what I'm hearing, if by such a test result it comes out that you have these antibodies, you could still, let's just say, spread the virus to other people. If I'm correct. Well, that is good to hear, to have that clarified, basically, because there were a lot of rumors, relating to that. Some people would think they're Mr. or Mrs. Untouchable because of it. And learning that, okay, the antibodies, it must be proven by way of blood tests. Um, if I got it right, and correct me if I'm wrong with that, but is it that particular ethnic groups are more likely to have antibodies? Is that possible, or is there like some? Have you studied or have you observed that a particular ethnic group has, let me say, antibodies?
Um, I don't think that specific groups have like a higher chance of getting the antibodies, or their bodies like make them more quickly. I think like, for example, when the research institutes are looking for antibodies in people, um, um, they like just look at the different groups and they see, oh, there are more antibodies here, which means that more people in those groups will have had the coronavirus.
Right, right. Okay, that
So
is really
it
interesting.
doesn't mean
Yeah,
that the group itself, let's say, has something in their genes or something from their background that had allowed them to have, let's say, more antibodies during the research. The basic conclusion is just they have had more corona cases, probably, right?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Okay,
Right.
so
That is
understood.
interesting. That is interesting to know. So it's there is a connection to the cases and the antibodies. Let me just put it that way if I got it right. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
That's why, for research purposes, it's something that researchers like to use.
Yeah.
So then, I have a question. Does that because the impacts of coronavirus is less in, let's say, in Africa and yeah, mostly in Africa. It's so much less than here in the Western world or in the developed countries. Does that have to do with prior in pandemics or epidemics that had gone on there, whereby they have had to, let's say, create certain antibodies that are proven to be more effective during this pandemic than over here, for instance, in the Netherlands? Is that also, am I creating like a link that makes sense?
Mhm.
I think that's a very good question, a very difficult question. I am not sure why the coronavirus has more impact here than in other countries. But if I like make my own theories about it, I think it might have more to do with the way people live, like closely together. With, for example, here it's cold in wintertime, so we like to get together closely in houses instead of living outside, like in the summer.
Mhm.
So I think it probably has to do more with that than
Mm.
like the ability to make antibodies.
Right.
But it would be, but then coronavirus would be more because people out there, let's say it's in African Ghana, it's sunny, people are out, people work outside more than they work indoors. But the infections has been so much less and right. So then the question will remain, why is it? And I know, of course, this is one of the big mysteries or the questions in the research area for in during this pandemic, as in why is the impact so much less in Ghana than it is in the Netherlands, for instance?
Mm.
Is it, yeah, I don't know. Have you stumbled upon any information that could provide a clarification for this, or is it still we just don't know? We have no idea. But yeah.
Now, I have to say I haven't read any articles or anything about this matter, so I cannot give a definitive answer.
Right. Right. All right. Well, for those of you who just tuned in, welcome to Africa in Focus on High Radio, the voice of the next generation. We have all kinds of lines of people that are listening and tuning in right now. We have people tuning in from our usual website, www.highradionl.com. Of course, our partnering apps, the TuneIn and other partnering apps. If you are tuning in just now on Facebook or on YouTube, welcome. We are talking to a health expert to really
Mhm.
get to the bottom of, the true facts surrounding COVID-19 and how our community should be, observing them, and whether or not, to ensure that all of the rules are lived out in your household or around as much as possible. And that's really what we are talking about. We're just having our last couple of 5 minutes as we talk to Dr. Irene about, all of these topics surrounding. In the meantime, I just want to give a shout out to Mensa Gary, who is listening through Facebook. Feel free to share it online, of course, so that our community hears about this the most. Also, shout out to Don Alvis and John Royals, who said our traditional medicines are keeping Africans alive. All right. Well, we will have to ask you some more about that really soon. And I think that also reflects a lot of the hope and the faith that Ghanaians have. That's also one of the reasons why we are talking a bit of more of the scientific side, so that we could be aware of that and so much more. Dr. Irene, what I would really like to know is, starting from this period, it was like, oh, children can't contract the virus. So still, even in a lot of the measures that are taken, some of the primary schools are open and all of that. Is it still so that children can't contract COVID-19? What are the facts surrounding that?
Mm. So in the beginning, we saw that children didn't become very sick from corona. They only get very mild symptoms. And that's why we thought if they don't get very sick, probably they don't spread it as much either. But then when the schools opened in September, we saw that actually in schools where parents would test their children when they had symptoms, that they actually did get corona, and they actually spread it a lot either. So there were many schools in Amsterdam that had a lot of cases with corona. So now we know that children actually do contract the virus and can spread it as well, although less than adults.
Mm-hmm. Right. So is it that, so just to interpret this in more easy way, can we give a child a hug at this moment, or rather we should rather keep that to ourselves?
I think children need hugs, so don't refrain from hugging children too much, but maybe but maybe try to stay closer to the children that are in your own surroundings, and try to keep a bit of distance to children that are a bit further from you, because it could be possible that they can cause you to contract the virus.
Right. Okay. So they're still transmitting it. That is really interesting. That is really interesting.
It is.
And generally now the government says that children older than 12, they should keep distance from adults. But children under 12, they're a bit more relaxed with the rules, because a child needs attention, and that's important as well.
And okay, and how about the face mask for children?
What do you mean exactly?
So I know kids don't have to wear a face mask when outside. How about teens? So from 12, because I think now it's under 16, you don't have to wear a face mask, or?
I think it's from 13 years old and older, you have to wear a face mask.
You have to wear. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit the same. Like for teenagers, we think they're like they can be as contagious as adults. So we ask them to wear a face mask as well. But for the smaller children, I think for one, it's more difficult for them to wear a face mask. But also we think they are a bit less contagious than adults.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Before we round up, Dr. Iris, we would really like to know what is the difference between quarantine and isolation? I think a lot of people also have that a bit, confused. And also ending off, what are some of the rules that people should really strictly follow? Because there's so many things to look at, but like from a doctor's perspective, what are the things, the top 3, let's just say, that you would recommend?
So first, about the isolation and the quarantine. It's a bit of a technical difference. Isolation is a term we use for when someone has actually contracted the virus. And in the case of corona, isolation takes 7 days, and then until you don't have any symptoms anymore. And then when you stop having symptoms, we believe you're not contagious anymore and you can leave isolation. And quarantine is a term we use for people who have been in contact with someone who has the coronavirus and therefore have a higher chance to contract it, but don't have it yet.
Right.
Okay.
So it's a bit technical. And then once, if they actually get the virus, then they have to go in isolation.
Okay.
So if I understand it, the quarantine is it's a provincial measure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when you caught
exactly.
it, when you catch it, you have to go in isolation. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Understood.
And we are in our advice, we're a bit more strict. If you have to be in isolation, we say you really have to stay in your room and don't see anyone. But if you are in a quarantine, for example, with your family, then you have to keep your distance as much as possible, but you can still go to the kitchen, for example, or share a meal while having distance, for example.
Right. Right.
And then
And
the top three.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is to always keep those 1.5 meter distance. Because I think that's the most effective way to stop the spreading of the virus. And then the second thing I think is to stay at home if you have symptoms that could be corona, because then the chance that you have it and that you can spread it to others is quite high. And then to get tested, because that's the only way to know for sure if you actually have the coronavirus or not. And that's the best way to protect other people by knowing.
Yeah. I hear that if you really start to not be able to smell things and taste things, then you better you better do a test really quick.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah, when you
Yeah.
don't taste or smell anything, that can be a sign of corona as well. Yeah.
Yeah, good one. Dr. Iris, before we round up, where can people contact you or maybe the GGD, and where can they find you, and any if they have any questions?
That's a very good question. I will have to look up what the phone number is for the GGD.
Just the general. So basically, we can say the general GGD telephone number, obviously because that GGD is in every region. I would believe. Yeah, I think. And normally people would know it as just the vaccination place, basically. But GGD is also really the place where you can contact for testing as well, and any information regarding COVID-19, if I get that correct.
Yeah, there's a special phone number for questions. So if you have any question or want any advice on anything, there's a special number you can call. And by heart, I think it's 020
Yeah.
5555
Yeah.
202.
Okay. So 020-5555-202.
Yes, that's exactly
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then if you want to call to make an appointment for a test, it's a different number.
Right.
I'll have to look it up as well.
No problem. And that one is free, right? It's a free testing?
Yeah, it's important to know that it's free and anyone can make an appointment for a test. So it doesn't matter if you have like a Dutch BSN number or not.
Right.
Like anyone can call and make an appointment. And you don't need things like a passport or papers or anything.
Okay. All right. So anybody could locate it. No worries.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank
and the
you
right
very
phone number?
Yeah. Yeah. The
Should I say
number
the
for the
phone number?
testing? Yes.
Yeah, it's 0800
Yeah.
1202.
0800 1202.
Yep,
All right.
perfect.
Well, well noted. Well noted. I'll spread that on the comment box. And thank you so much, Dr. Ease, for your time. Thank you for spending it with us to answer our questions relating COVID-19 to highlight, some of these important areas that we should really be aware of. So thank you again. And also, apologies if we've taken a bit more of your time. Some minutes was some important question I got messages for to ask you. So thank you very much for your patience.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for having me,
Oh,
and have a very
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
all right.
Thank you, you
And
too.
same to you. All right. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Iris from Hey Day. Interesting
We
talk
need a part
to,
two.
sorry?
We need a part two.
We need a part two. Yeah. Yeah. To really
Yeah,
talk
because
about the science of
the
it.
vaccine
Yeah. Yeah.
and the vaccine, of course. Yeah, yeah,
And the vaccine. Oh, yeah, man. The vaccine is just something, what I feel is that, our people, and I say our people, we're not
yeah.
ready
Not
for it.
for.
That's the thing. That's really what I'm having. But we will have, Dr. Charles Ajamai on ending of this month. I think he can
Mhm.
go a bit more in depth in that. And
Okay.
also, we're working on getting Dr. Sabine back on. She's like our doctor,
Yeah.
she's on innovation and all of that. And I think it would also be good to find out what she is thinking about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of vaccine, in Ghana, they're just going for it. Just the president, he has taken his. Nobody can tell him, oh, well, why don't you take it? He'll be like, yeah, I took it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And his wife took it. Some of these influencers have taken it as well.
Yeah.
Claudia Lamore, I've seen Jessica, the presenter Jessica Opare Safo.
Oh,
I
she's
think I
taking
say
it.
that well. There was an interesting video of hers that I still need to watch. She shared that, which was her the signs that she had on
Oh,
after getting the vaccine. So I will share that with
okay.
you. We should definitely we should definitely have a look at that and look at whatever these
Mm-hmm.
signs are. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that for a lot of people, they do experience some just some symptoms. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing. Yeah, and some say that is really what it is. Um, Shout out to some of you listening. Mensa Gary who's saying, and they have extended evening clock again till 30th of this month. Headache in
Really?
Oh man, they haven't officially extended, but the
Oh,
rumor has it, and most of the time the rumor is true.
mm, boy.
um, I don't know, man. I really don't know. What do you think of this lockdown? Does it bother you that much?
Um, we just have to get through it. It doesn't really bother me that much, to be honest. And I think it was even the question I wanted to ask, like that, does she feel that the
Mhm.
Dutch government has been, yeah, more, let's say, reactive? So that has caused her to
Reactive, yeah,
suffer more on this, during this pandemic, or are they actually on time? Because
yeah.
compared to other European countries, this evening, this curfew should have, been reinstated,
October,
like let's say from October already. But they waited,
yeah,
um, because like Belgium, they are experiencing some freedom now, but they went into curfew October.
over six
So
months.
that is,
Yeah,
yeah. So that is something on
yeah,
the list to see. Okay, which strategy would have been better?
yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have to go through this curfew. It hasn't been long enough till March. till end of March, okay, maybe they will probably even extend it even more because the numbers are looking good. Like I said last week,
Right.
the numbers are looking good. The cases are going down. The death numbers are also going down, and that is partly due to this curfew that we having, right?
Mm.
So yeah, it's going all right. It's going good. So yeah.
Right, right. But do you think that, they would be like, oh yeah, the numbers are dropping, let's just change? Do you think that I have to agree with you. I think that would be prolonged, but I'm just more concerned of how the average Dutch mental is going to accept that truth.
But Miss Alba, they already did. Um,
They
I
didn't. They
think
went crazy. Oh my gosh. Remember when lockdown was introduced? People went nuts.
they did go crazy. And when curfew got introduced, that's when they start rioting and stuff. But here's the
Yeah,
thing: the you because the first part of your question was, do you think when the numbers will drop, ease they'll maybe uplift the curfew? But they tried doing this method of if the numbers go down, that's when we're going to make you lose, and then they eventually had to pay for it. Like I
right.
think last summer, right? Was it last summer where
Yeah.
things were
Oh,
were going a bit, yeah, right. And but this was the numbers were looking good
people were
ish,
ready to
and
party.
then
That
they
is
were
what
like,
messed it up.
you think so? It was the
Oh,
parties
I
that messed
remember
it
the
up.
beach sides. Do you remember that? The first one of these first days when the heat
Yeah.
came up?
Yeah,
Wow.
I do remember. I do remember. But the government allowed it, right? So and that's what right after the summer, look at the terrible numbers that we ran into due to that little space they gave for traveling and all that. Like
Oh
tourists
yeah,
were coming to Amsterdam from
yeah,
Spain, where it was very severe there. You know, you were allowed to travel without doing a test, remember? So
yeah,
that happened because the numbers were kind of like dropping. So they thought it was going down, and then nah, it just came
yeah,
back up. So I think this time they'll just hold it as long as they can, and they'll hold it like with the vaccine. So the vaccine numbers go up, that's when they probably will loosen the things up. But they won't go, okay, the numbers are dropping,
yeah.
so okay, we can end the curfew and then have nah. I don't think they're gonna
Right,
do it.
right. Oh man, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I have to say, I didn't mind the being indoors and stuff. I really didn't mind. I feel like it brought me to a whole different rest. You know what I mean? That's just pretty much how I see it. But yeah, I just feel bad for the restaurant owners.
Yeah, that is that.
Those,
The small
yeah,
businesses, the barber shops,
yeah,
the physiotherapies,
yeah,
the massage salons, the pedicure, manicure, all of that. Those small businesses that you literally do to save your money, to support your family, even to support
yeah,
your dreams.
yeah,
All that just shut down and there's nothing else you could do. Finding
yeah,
another job is hard enough
yeah,
in regular times, but then during this pandemic, so yeah, it has been very stressful. And our
yeah.
regards and support goes out to those who have lost their jobs and to those who have
Family
lost
members. Yeah.
their families too. Yeah.
Family members, yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are listening, how is it at your end? Shout out to John Royals who said at first they told us kids can't get corona and now they can get corona. Wow, what a headache. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
that's really interesting. That's really the part that I'm like, okay, so what is it? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because for 12-year-olds or people till 12, kids till 12-year-olds, they can pretty much be cool and do what they want, but for the
Yeah.
rest of it, I'm like, where do you draw the line? So that is
Yeah.
yeah, I must say it can be quite confusing as to what to do in that aspect. We would really like to know how COVID and its measures and stuff is at your end, wherever you are listening from. raise your flag, raise your flag, share your location with us if you are tuning in from Facebook and you just spotted us on your timeline. Make sure that
Mm-hmm.
you follow High Radio on Facebook page, or you follow the page at least so that you stay updated on when we come on the show. Let us know, how it is for you. If you are listening to us on YouTube, that's probably because you saw the Africa on Focus YouTube channel. Don't forget to press the subscribe button and interact with us as we talk some more. In a bit, we will be having our usual Let's Chat Africa panel, which is, discussion heavy to talk some more about what's going on in our world. Happy Independence! I'm saying again, and I've dressed all festive for the season. I'm only playing, Ghana charts as we are
Yeah.
here. So as we come back, let's play some good old Castro Destroyer, so that when we come back, we
Wow.
can talk some more
Oh yeah,
about
Samu.
yeah,
DJ
what's
Breezy.
going on in our world.
Wow, but damn.
Let's
No
go.
shame.
Yay.
Yeah. Who better pa?
What?
Rata Simbiaba.
Castro. D Black.
Merasi. Sobim. Afide. Yeah, that's Obiaba.
Everybody, let's go.
Menamna metete. 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 Menamna metete. Metete. Anda seho. Menamna metete. 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 Menamna metete. Metete. Anda seho. Betty. Miranda. Seho. Betty. Seho. Betty. Seho. Betty. Seho. I feel the men flippy, men twisty, men whiny, and I say men cracky. Akaida Suntina, what's your shit? And I say, men dina, men sagala. Seho. Anda. Seho.
What?
Seho. Me brass. Seho. Betty. Seho. Anda. Seho. Betty. Anda. Seho. Trebles in the big boy. From water they see, it be like you make door. Shut the black see, we don't say you be take door. Never mind, shouting on catch you. Why there little see? So, why you for shift? Small. Until my to la them at the betchy. I'm Rover bet you 1 hour bet fee. If free to be best, say one bet if it's such a Madusa head in a motion street. Oh yeah. Menamna metete. Metete. Menamna metete. Anda seho. Menamna metete. Metete. Menamna metete. Anda seho. Betty. Miranda. Seho. Betty. Seho. Betty.
D Black.
Seho.
What?
Seho.
Yeah.
Betty.
Yeah, man.
Seho.
Point chili, point boiling. Who calling out the shots? Black. You stay in, we drinking, turning up till it's dusk. I beg, don't vex, couple stones in my neck. Everything I said right now, then flex. Bad boy, but goddamn I'm blessed. BAC hoodie on, I'm fresh. Def, jam, like a major label. Me and Castro go back like Fable. Baby girl, slow down for me, go down for me. Try smart, don't break my back for me.
Menamna metete. Anda seho. Menamna metete. Menamna metete. Anda seho. Betty. Miranda. Seho. Betty. Seho. Betty. Seho. Betty. Seho. Brabant. Poppy Miliano. D Black. My brother from another mother. DJ Breezy. One boy damn. We better pack. That's all. be Castro destroyer. Baby jet, it will let mongo. It will let mongo. Me check away, say move front eye, son of Kobaka, and wine and then so jagella, so pressure on the queen of retro queen, yeah. Come my yappy, but I soon the chance and a man, share no. Shama can say, Name Moody and Washi. Shame Buddha, DM, Name Moody and more than it. Shame Fidja Mountain Zero, come in the more day. Good do ya. Nana Yamina Betchere. Minu Bagura Cape. I try as Yamansai, Yanoya. Nana Yamina Betchere. Maya woo campaign. I try as Yamansai, Budoya. Nana Yamina Betchere. And if I won't serve our many, under me who I yashe. If I won't do my baby, I know that is our body. If I won't serve our many, under what you got me. If I won't do my dinner. Yeah, what can't be company? Mini would they want to buy? Yeah, or me no, me no, ya tell you what the kind. And see me day and Cassa, Mini would they on the bar. Yeah, or me no, ya tell you what the kind. And Serabe, watch a mona me, be your mind. And I know I didn't know me, or no, I am my son. And Serabe, watch a mona be your mind. And I know I didn't know me, or no, I am my son. Why though? She must sense my sense and a gas oil. The men who need now another way. The same food be told me that she be test. Show up boom slow me who defense. It's in young power says, yeah, happy and see what's so called there. Show 1, 2, 3, I got a dim. If I won't serve our many, under me who I yashe. If I won't do my baby, I know that is our body. If I won't serve our many, under what you got me, babe. If I won't do my dinner, yeah, what can't be company? Mini would they want to buy? Yeah, but I know ya tell you what the kind. And see me day and Cassa, Mini would they want to buy? Yeah, but I know ya tell you what the kind. Okay, you up on me piano. What will be very asking not in a sun and way? On the board and then you say that we Mary. Oh, I won't feel away. What will be very say? Oh, yeah, no, there was a on the board and then you say that we say Mary. Baby Jet, give me my mom. You are my baby. I wanna see you smiling, see you laughing. You are my Jerry. Oh, Gaga, you are my babe. I know if you run and leave you behind. This be Romeo and Juliet. If you wait, you deserve to be my wife. You deserve it, I know they lie. You know the feel well without my mic. What a pity, no bag baby. If you will, you deserve to be my wife. Hey, no, do yeah way. Hey, no, do yeah way.
Listen, I could listen to that song all day. That's a classic. Okay, it's not as classic as a true Ofori Amponsa, but that was Castro Destroyer with what's his name? Baby Jet. That's the name. And Kofi Kinata. I love that song. Man, Castro Destroyer, the late Castro Destroyer, rest in peace.
Oh
Um,
yes.
oh man, when he passed away, that hurt my heart. Like I couldn't talk about it for maybe 2 months because I love him as an artist so much. His energy, and I do feel that he was a part of that. It was a period. It was that period where Ghana music really started to hit, outside. You know what I mean? And I feel like he was
Goodness.
part of that because I think they even played this record at Funix and
Yo,
wow,
Castro didn't get his flowers. Like
he didn't.
basically, yes, Reggie Rockstone, yes, there's this other guy. That like they made Ghana music go abroad, but
Yeah,
it was Castro who made Ghana music like he was hitting numbers.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Castro was hitting. He was like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Drake
Of
of Ghana
Ghana.
music. No, like people don't understand. Of course, Sarkodie is now, but no, when Castro was on, like he
Yeah,
literally gave birth to this Sarkodie and Shatawale. Castro was the
yeah,
man, and the funny part is he didn't even go down. Like he was still up and rising. He was still on top
yeah,
when he left us. So that
yeah.
is imagine if he was still
If he was
alive.
still here, right?
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
man,
This
man,
and
man.
when you be playing songs like this, you what mama feel? You make me miss him now. Ah, these songs. Oh
I
dear Lord.
know. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
anyway,
That's true. He really
God
brought
bless him. God
a
bless him.
fresh
Rest in peace.
thing to hip life. He could do it all.
Man,
Absolutely, he could
yeah,
do it all.
and he's like it's generations. He started in the 2000s.
Oh
Like
man,
yo,
yeah,
this is,
with that
and he
50
was
Cent
still
swag.
popping. Yeah. Oh my God. No,
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Like, yeah,
man.
we reserve a time for to talk about like Ghana music
Oh, we
because
should.
oh,
Yeah, we should.
TikTok,
We
book
should.
back and stuff. But
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. Those are ones that I think their success was just before, we're now in this digital streaming and stuff like that. So we just play their records by heart. You hear it at the birthday every time, the birthdays, the weddings and stuff, but they don't
Yeah.
get their flowers enough. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We
Mm-mm.
should definitely reserve a show for that. And I do have a contact of some of even Sarkodie's production team, somebody that has been in the industry for long. So it would be nice to, see how that one, to also hear from somebody that's really there, how the sound evolved and
Yeah.
what it has done to us,
Yeah.
as global Africans and how we drag the sound with us. That would be really interesting. Yeah. Good, man. Good
Yeah.
talk.
Definitely.
So,
Mm-hmm.
welcome to Africa in Focus for all of you who are listening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Man, we would definitely have to take the news flash that we have to next week so that we can still talk about matters rising on the continent and in our world. There is lots to talk about. um, our bi-monthly special is the Let's Chat Africa, which we should be bringing along a lot more. And
Yes.
where we really talk about matters rising in our community and things that we should really look out for. And Let's Chat Africa is joined by two other panelists that that are backstage already to come and have a talk to us. I haven't seen them in quite some time, so I'm really also interested in how they have been keeping up during this
Yeah.
lockdown and all of that, because our world has been changing that and so much. African Focus is made possible by High Radio, the voice of the next generation. And High Radio is an Amsterdam based radio station that connects Africans from all over the world and the diaspora. It's Amsterdam's most dynamic satellite and digital radio station that promotes African culture to Africans in the diasporas. Subjects and topics ranging from sports, entertainment, music, culture, arts, and business. All of that is provided on these platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. You can find us on our normal website, www.highradionl.com, and feel free to tune in. And you can also find us on TuneIn. And today we are talking about, with Let's Chat Africa, we are firstly talking about some of the topics that we've discussed in our news flash and that really dealt with, Ghana security forcing, shutting down LGBTQ office rights group, and we are really getting into our perspective here in the West, having grown up here, being in an environment that is more, let's just say, liberal than our many African countries are, and really to give a perspective on what do we think is going to work for the life that we live back home, basically.
Mhm.
And let me just welcome Liz and Nene back on before we start talking more and more and more. And let's get this on. Hello, Liz.
Hi, Miss
Hello,
Hava. Hi,
Nene.
Donny. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Good, good. I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed. It's a good Sunday. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm relaxed too. I took a walk this morning, even though it was very cold, but it
Oh
helps.
man,
Yeah.
the
But
how the sun was out, or in some way was a scheme.
uh,
Yesterday and today was chilly.
yeah, yeah, it's very weird because a week ago it was so sunny, and now it just changed. It just switched.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. I think this is also like a reason for a lot of people to have some sort of flu, but due to COVID, people are just refusing the flu at all. So people just don't have anything. That's really the situation as it is now. How are you,
Yeah.
Nene?
Yeah, it's been chill. It's been a calm Sunday for me. Yes,
Right.
nothing different. Just
Yeah.
the usual Sunday chill, replanning how the week is supposed to go and all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well, it's been quite a while since we've come on and talk like this. I'm really like interested to know like how has your life been this last couple of 6 months, like lockdown? How is it going with your families? What are like your general observations in terms of this new normal that we are in? How is that going for you both?
For
Well,
me, it's been okay. For me, it's been quite interesting. I actually graduated university.
Oh,
So I'm like a
congrats.
2020, thank you, a 2020 graduate, with all that comes with that.
Yeah.
So that has been it's been also a personal transition time for me this last few months. I think I've been dealing with the policies and the lockdowns and things like that pretty well. Um, in
Yeah.
January, I was able to go to Curacao for a while too. So I was able
Oh,
to be with family and connect with them. I finally
oh,
met my
good.
little niece after
Good.
1.5 years. So that was really nice. Now that I'm back, I think because I got that space, because in Curacao, the cases are very low. So they're
Yeah.
opening up pretty much. Um, because I got that, like the ability to connect with family and be there, and was more
Yeah.
freeing. I think now it's like more like it's fine. Like I can,
Mm.
the lockdowns and things like that is just part of it.
Right, right. So why do you think that is, that the cases there are lower? Because it's the same, for us in Ghana. I mean,
Hmm.
to hear that it's the same case in Curacao, that it's good, but it makes me just
Yeah,
question, do you have any idea why that could be?
yeah. I think they were saying, some researcher was saying that the sun has an effect on it. Um,
Right.
I think people are less like, there's less systems here, because here I think if you're a teacher, for example, if you have a cold or something, they directly send you to get it tested. So the system is set that testing is much easier. I think over there it's less systematic. So even if people are cold or sick, they don't directly get tested. So that can also have an effect on it. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, because people, it's pretty
Mhm.
much open. Like people are hanging out. There are certain things that are still in lockdown, like certain events, because it was like carnival season beginning February, but there was no
Yeah.
carnival or jumping or things like that. But
Yeah.
still, I think there was a week or a day at least, there was zero new cases. So it's very
Right.
different than here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure because they don't want to have people partying, bumping and grinding,
Yeah,
writing COVID.
yeah,
Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. All good. Good for you, man. Going out, just going to the warm country, the motherland, It's so refreshing. I could speak speak for that about myself as well.
Yeah.
What about you, Nene? How has it been for you these last couple of 6 months in terms of life, lockdown?
Well, for me, yeah, for me, aside wearing nose mask and adhering to protocols and all that, it has really been quite normal for me because I was still going to work. Yeah, most of my days I spend at work, and
Yeah,
aside that, checking up on families, and that's it. Nothing new, nothing scary. Also, yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
And has work was it is remote work also a topic for you, or do you still go to your usual location to work?
Yes, I still do. I still go to my usual location to work. From the beginning, it was partly home. I do most of the administrative stuff. Maybe
Yeah,
2 days for administrative work, and then three days to go on site. But yeah, but almost every now and then, I'm not really used to. I'm not the sitting down type, so it was
right.
quite difficult for me to really stay home, being behind the laptop. Yeah, I always want to get busy with something, get my hand busy with something, and yeah, so I end up spending like 4 days at work and then one day at home. Now I'm back to how it used to be. So 5 days straight at work. Yeah.
Wow, wow. That's interesting. And how has it been for you in terms of because yeah, a lot of people talk about their mental health. I know even in general, like here in the Netherlands, there are a lot of let me just say awareness or activities even organized for young people. Regarding their mental health and how they should get through this pandemic and stuff like that. How have you been like coping? Did you come up with any type of new activities to get your mind straight, or how has that been for you, Nene?
Yeah. Um, for personal growth, I planned something for myself in terms of taking some new courses for myself because in as much as the times have been quite intense, it's brought with it lots of negativities, but in between there is some sort of optimism because during those time
Right.
I took the time to personally develop myself in terms of taking new course online, and then I read a couple of books also, and then also for work I tried to develop myself and then my skill, and
Yeah.
with family I also took advantage of the season to connect more with family because unlike it used to be always busy, but now and it's not because just at a snap of your finger you could hear of someone who was there and not there anymore. So
Yeah.
though it was quite intense, but I just stayed positive through it all,
Mm.
and I took advantage of the time to also think of business opportunities that this is something that yeah, during those time people have been talking about the fact that it happened a century ago and all that, and of course if yeah, a century ago, I'm wondering how many people are still living now, that yeah, how many people are
Yeah.
still living
Yeah.
when it happened a century ago. So for me, I just find out, okay, what if it should happen? What's plans am I going to put in place personally for my generation if they should
Yeah.
encounter something of this sort or even more? Adhere to
Yeah.
do businesses that okay, like my generation, or maybe if I'm to advise someone on what business or in what venture the person is to go into, then yeah, I can really give that person a proper advice. Sometimes you actually
Yeah.
write some business plans for myself, of which I have started working on one.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Good. That sounds good. That's an adjustment I feel that, a lot of people find difficult to make, because like, if we even to talk about career, all that people know is their job, or
Yes.
their type of lane that they're working in. And to
Very
do
true.
a readjustment where it's like enforced on them, or, I think that the usual person goes into panic mode,
Yeah.
if you're not careful, or at least that's what I think. So I do,
Mm.
yeah, that is, I would say that you're one of the few that consciously takes that other steps, is like, what, let me work on a business plan for myself, or, a
Yeah.
career change or anything of that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm actually curious to see if what Liz is going to do now that she's graduated. Is she, well, that's also like a beginning of a career, or is that another study you want to do, Liz?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting question that I ask myself every day. But yeah, I think right now, when I finished, I started applying for jobs, but I quickly realized that that was not going to happen anytime soon. So it also had me reconsider what I actually really wanted to do, and because I do one of the values that I really uphold is the value of like understanding and knowledge. I think that there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding going through the world, especially amongst like Black people. And like with my academic background and my abilities, I really have the skills to create platforms that allow people to understand and see things that they wouldn't have access to. So
Mm.
that is one of the goals that I want to um, get to, which is very open, very vague, and can be done in multiple ways. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to create like business ideas, create
Right.
collaborations. I've been working on art projects, all in the purpose of creating understanding, creating telling stories that don't often get told, but explaining maybe scientific issues or historic issues that are only talked about in academic language that a lot of people don't understand. Having
Yeah.
platforms that can be able to do that, having businesses that can be collaborative and that can provide like knowledge, new stories, new visions, and things like that. So that is my answer for now. I don't have anything concrete to say, but I'm working on a few things and a few ideas that hopefully are gonna um, be fruitful soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a lot of business, like both of you actually, business plan, business. Could it be that that's the direction that we're going for? Opposing to just be dependent on corporate, while we say, what, let me just start something ourselves. Do you see any perspective in that? How is your observation in that, Nene?
Well, I think to start something, it's a good idea to have. It's a good idea to have, but before you venture into it, you need to have much knowledge about it. You don't just wake up one day and have
Yeah.
the idea, because during this time, during the COVID times, there was I was working on some few plans, some few business plans. But the
Right.
question I asked myself was that I first tried to define a problem statement for each of the plan, because then when I'm able to
Hmm.
understand the problem statements, then it's quite easy for me to know which direction I'm supposed to head, and how to satisfy. So I would say have much knowledge about it, research more into what you want to go into, Anyways, because you can never be prepared enough. So just start anyways. You'll make mistakes, yes, but just start
Yeah.
anyways. All of
Yeah.
them are part of the process.
Right. Because Liz, what was
Yeah.
your area of graduating? Because I know this is your master's, if I am to recall it correct.
Yeah. Was my master's. I got a master's in media, culture, and society. So it's
Right.
trying to understand how media and forms of media, so the news, but also
Hmm.
like pictures, text, all of these things affect the way that culture and society um, is connected. So a lot of times a lot of people assume that they come with ideas and they come with perceptions, but the media actually structures the way we understand society. That's why it's so important. Like when kids they start with teaching them like to read, kids cartoons, all these things have an effect on how we understand the world and how we see each other. So yeah, that was basically my master's, trying to understand how media affects us as culture and as people.
That is really interesting. That is really interesting. Because hearing you say this, I actually thought it was the other way around, whereby media kind of follows the thinking of the people. But if I'm hearing you correctly, it's the other way around. Media rather influences our
Yeah, at
perspective.
least
And
yeah, at least that's the theory I subscribe to. There's a
right,
theory that talks about discourse. There's like these academics, they talk about the real world, and there's the real world out there, and but we cannot understand the real world without media, even the words we use. If we see a tree,
right,
we use the word tree to understand it. If we see a chair, that word, that medium allows us access to the real world. So there's through media, through words, through language, through all these things that we understand what is happening. And because it's so everything we see affects us, but we don't really have control over a lot of it. The news, for example, selects certain things that are important and remove other things as less important. The news,
right.
TV shows, Facebook systematically chooses to send us what we're interested in, not what is important, but what will get them more likes and more clicks. So
Yeah,
the way that we interact with the world is heavily dependent on the access, the media that translate the real world to us.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That is so interesting. This is
Interesting.
material for Donnie loves this.
Yeah, in a way, in a way.
We need to sit down and
Because
chat because I can talk about this for hours.
Because I hear a bit of that. It also deals with the psychology, right?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, speaking a bit about perspectives and all of that, one of the topics that we thought it was good to highlight was, of course, this particular thing has been in the news recently, but it also, invites us to really talk about our perspective, how culture, tradition, and all of that influences our perspective. So it's a bit connected to what Liz was talking about, but then Liz has the media side, which also deals with it in some way. And this particular topic had to deal with it was a news flash, a news item that we talked about last week, and it really had to do with the LGBTQ coming into the news or appearing in the news a lot, especially as it relates to Ghana. I don't think it's different for countries like Uganda or even in the Caribbean countries, whereby well, either it is a crime to engage in activities such as that, in homosexual activities or any of that, either a crime or either it's you can be charged for it or you can be arrested for it, or any of that. In African countries, it ranges, and it came back in the news so many times. And basically, it came out and it listed in the media Ghana as being anti-gay. And so the question then arose a lot. Are Ghanaians anti-gay? Is it the culture? Is it the tradition? Or is it, you know, um, religion? What is happening with that? And it even was taken on to the celebrity line, because Ghana's booming. A lot of celebrities come in. They signed a
Mhm.
petition, in support of the LGBTQ community in Ghana, saying that if the Ghanaian government doesn't do anything about it, they will take measures. If I'm to explain that correct. So I would really love to talk about not just the fact that should it be allowed or should not. I guess everyone's standpoint on that is diverse, but to really look at how is the what are our perspectives, especially from us, you and I. We live here in the Netherlands, where it's just anything crazy is allowed, versus where we're from, where things are not as liberal as we might seem or we might think. So I would especially like to know from you, Liz. You've worked in Ghana before. You know that environment. Um, how is it regulations regarding LGBTQ in the Caribbean, and how did you experience that in Ghana? If you have any experience regarding that.
Um, I think compared to Curacao, my experience in Ghana was a little bit more closed off, in the sense
Right.
Mhm.
that in Curacao, even though it's not illegal, but there are no marriage rights. So if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you cannot get married, and there
Yeah.
is a lot of taboo surrounding it, and a lot of like people that don't agree with it. But
Yeah.
still, there are people that are openly gay. That
Right.
there are like communities, there are like spaces for openly gay people. Um, Even though there are certain times protests about it and things like that, religious churches protested and things like that.
Yeah.
But it is this duality of people just being and existing, but also
Right.
to deal with like those pop-ups of being against it and the systematic oppression of it. I think
Yeah.
when
Mhm.
once I was in Ghana, it was as if it wasn't it didn't exist.
Wasn't there. Yeah.
It wasn't something that I ever like discussed or saw or considered in the
Yeah.
society. It was as if it was foreign to Ghana. So yeah, I didn't experience anything similar. But in Curacao, I lived for 23 years, so maybe that's also a factor that I know about the communities, I know about the organizations, I know about that. Maybe if I was living in Ghana, I there was
Yeah.
those like via ways to know, but I didn't
Right.
experience anything that had to do with acknowledging that as a reality, even.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I really would like to know is, do you know of any explanation why? Because Dutch Antilles or Curacao is very much connected with the Netherlands. Why, like all of these years,
Hmm.
the Netherlands is so liberal, but still, Curacao is not that same, that same environment as we see it here. Do you know of any?
Yeah.
Do you see a cultural connection or?
Legally, for example, in because Bonaire and Statia and Saba, I think, are part of the Netherlands itself now. So everything is legal, just like the Netherlands. But that was recently in 2010 when they once they became part of the Netherlands. But Curacao,
Yeah.
Aruba, and Saint Martin have their own like autonomy to decide. And I think the reason why they don't want to be more open with LGBTQIA rights is basically the same reasons that I've been seeing in most African countries, that it goes against tradition. It's like a Western tradition, it's a Western culture, and
Right.
it goes against our religious belief and religious practices. That's the main reason. That's why most of the time, once um, those discussions or topics are brought up, the counter argument is mostly it goes against God's laws and God's rules, and it goes against the Bible. So it's
Yeah.
most of the time being contradicted because of religious/traditional beliefs.
Right. 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 Yeah, that's the same. Same as in Ghana. Actually, the
Mm.
comments regarding it has been diverse these days. I feel that because leading to the previous events whereby LGBTQ community was actually shut down by police. Police say they did it because of security reasons. Others say, well, they basically don't care about this particular group. I did find an interesting tweet on Twitter, for instance, because it happened that recently Boris Kodjoe, Idris Elba, these famous faces that have been part of making Ghana famous these last 2 years all around the world. They signed a letter in solidarity with gay people in Ghana. And then you have one comment coming from Akosia, who says, basically, she says, in kwasiasem kwakwa, which is like in Trini saying like saying like, oh, that is like pure nonsense.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like that lecture will change anything. They should go and try that in Kenya and Uganda. Nanka omobete pau, like there they would see. And since when did someone's sexual preference become a national issue? Will that increase our capita per income? Or yeah. Another one was also from Nigeria to Uganda and now Senegal. The revolution wind is blowing and it's ready to blow off. And out of the wicked, clueless, and useless leaders in Africa, another comment was, let me see what else. There was one interesting. In Uganda, if you have a car, you can get each and every kind of lady you want. So what you see is the general public really goes out to say, listen, this is not going to work. This is not for Ghana. This is not it for us. However, the top listing people are saying otherwise. So those are some of the comments that I've been taking up. Of course, this is Twitter. We can't say that this is really the general public and things, but hearing that from you, Nene and Donny, hearing these type of topics discussed, what comes to mind? Do you observe or do you expect any particular changes to come or particular conversations to arise and being picked up by the government? What is your outlook on that?
Maybe it's having a delay.
Nene is having a slight delay with his connection.
Can't hear you. Um, can you hear? Or is it me?
No, I can't hear him. He's probably in the attic.
Okay. Uh, well, let me go ahead and give my 2 cents. Um, so I observed this matter as it arose, right? Mm, I observed it on House Club. Is it House Club? Yeah, that new
Clubhouse.
social app.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Did you join it?
I said House Club. Yes, Clubhouse. Yeah. Oh,
Did,
by the way, Clubhouse is booming. It's popping right now. It's like,
oh
the place to
man,
be instead of IG and Twitter. So when
I don't have
it
an
when it
iPhone, man.
came so when it came on there, right, you have different groups discussing it. And I was so lucky or happy that I was on there because it gave me the opportunity to really tap into Ghanaians all over the world speaking or giving their thoughts on
Yeah.
these on this phenomenon that's happening. And from what I was listening, from what I gathered, is the people are not ready for it. So the Ghanaian
Okay.
community just isn't ready for it, and there could be many reasons for it: tradition, religion, education, where the three things are collected, right? So those things are not right, and it doesn't. And those three things do not even give the foundation or create an environment where this LGBTQ community would be accepted and respected.
Right.
At the same time, they also, what I did collect or know from this Ghanaian community is that if the Ghanaian government will push this LGBTQ rights and will legalize certain things, whereas the community isn't ready, then it will also feel like they're pushing it or they're pushing it onto their residents or their onto the people, which will backfire. So then the people will come and protest against this, and so it gave me an interesting look. And funny thing is, I was thinking you have a generation now and even the generation in the diaspora, where here in Netherlands it's legal. We live with them. We know how it is to have
Yeah.
human rights and how do you say we know how it is to have like a human rights within your constitution or within your job, your practices, everything.
Yeah.
Um, you would find that even these people or this generation still have this idea that nah, they're not ready for it. So I kept asking, why are you guys saying, you people from the diaspora saying Ghanaians are not ready, or the world isn't ready, or Africa is not ready? Aren't you part of the Africans? Aren't you thinking differently? Don't you feel like the LGBTQ community is owed, let's say, certain rights and all that? So that was a very, very interesting
Okay.
perspective I could gather from this group, which is reflective of, I think, a lot of people in the diaspora as well as Ghanaians themselves. So yeah, Clubhouse was a very good place to see this and to discuss with people.
Right. Okay, that one I didn't expect. So what you're saying is that even people that are here, that live here, that are exposed to, wouldn't necessarily say, okay, Ghana government, change your legislations around this.
Yes, right, exactly
Hmm.
that.
Interesting. I would like to know from the perspective of Nene, because Nene is also one who, well, but pretty much, known Ghana better than I do. I've worked there for some time, but I can't say like I've lived there for years or something like that. So, what can you share about that, Nene? I, I think his internet connection won't allow him to talk at all because I don't hear anything.
He's an engineer. You can't fix your Wi-Fi.
You're an engineer, Nene. Fix it. Fix the internet. No, for some reason we can't hear Nene at all. Oh no. Such a shame. Such a shame. Okay, so just to chime in up until his connection works up, right? So one thing that I
Mhm.
realized there is in general, if a country like, I don't know how it is in the Caribbean, but I'm sure it is in Ghana, people pretty much leave you alone, you know. until you start doing things in public that are out of their normal, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
So one thing that I've observed is like for people that have or are homosexual or anything of that, there are some you can walk around, you spot them, especially me if I come into some of the entertainment scenes. There are just some, oh my gosh, if people don't know, come on. But it's because they don't live that life, like let's say in public, go out to a public hotel and then do something that could maybe, invite the police to come. It's pretty much like, leave these people alone because other than that, you can't do. That's what I feel
Right.
that it is in Ghana, and I feel that um, if you touch that, there would be like some unrest around people, and I'm even afraid that people will then start to like start to just what's this word of they will start persecuting this group, because of this type of fear of, hey, you're coming to take over us just like you did in the West and those type of things.
Yeah.
That is what my fear is, for them, because some of the hate crimes, Donnie, that you shared, obviously I don't know if they happened recent, but it was that LGBT victims of crime said the anti-gay law inhibited them from reporting to authorities for fear of exposure and arrest. And Ghana's laws ought to protect everyone from violence, but fear that the anti gay law could be used against them, combined with social stigma, serves as a barrier to seeking access to justice. And Felix, a young man from Kumasi, told Human Rights Watch that in 2016, he was raped by a man he had met on social media, but did not report the rape Um, to the police out of fear that he would be arrested for having well, for even indulging in that. Okay, that
Mm.
is some of the concerns I also have, obviously, because people will probably tell them, oh yeah, you should have stayed out of this business or something like that. I don't know. I No, I do know. I feel that if this thing comes up, you have these celebrities come in and signing petition, which I feel does not really shake the world of these politicians. They'll be like, listen, we're here for 4 years. We're doing what we're doing. And who are you? Some celebrity who just comes in twice a year or 3 times a year, who maybe has one piece of property, to come and tell me what to do. You get what I mean? I
Mhm.
really feel that within this time it's intertwined with, they say religion, I don't really think it's that. I think it rather is more of a cultural thing, because I do find Afro cultures within that African umbrella to be very focused on multiplication and, you know making children and family and all of that. I think that really conflicts with LGBTQ rather than the religion aspect. But just like Liz pointed out, like all of these years, Curacao has been related with the Netherlands for all of these years, and they probably never thought of being exactly like the Netherlands in that extent, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
I would definitely say that.
Okay. I think it's interesting. Um, I would say it is religion. Why? Because there is this idea that happens in Curacao too, that religion has become identity and religion has become tradition because
Okay.
um, there has been ethnographic research of gay couples in Africa pre-colonial
Mhm.
history. There's been kings and queens that have been have same-sex couples like marriages. There's even some names in Hausa for effeminate women, for example, that marry effeminate men that marry other men. So the fact that it's in the language is because that it was part of the society. um,
Mm,
and like research shows that the fact because African cultures, so it was in Angola, in Kenya until today, certain high end women are still allowed to marry other women. So
right.
um, African cultures, Kenya, Uganda, um, Angola, all those region pre-colonial eras, there were documented cultural elements like that, traditions that allowed that, and even, like, they were part of society. But it was because of the conservative Christianity and Islam that came in that erased, and the erasure of that legacy, because when the West came, there was a lot of erasure of that legacy that allowed for now that we can say that it's culture. But what is really culture? If this was happening way before our beliefs that this is wrong or this is bad, way before that, there was these practices that kings and queens practiced. What isn't that tradition? So, and like the idea, because people are never ready for change. When in Europe, when they wanted to have equal rights for women, people were not ready. They fought for it.
Right.
When enslaved Africans wanted liberation, they fought for it.
Right.
When we think that things are meant to be like this, it's gonna take a revolution. It's not, people are never gonna be ready. You just have to fight for it. And I think that having the ability, tolerance is not enough. I think having the ability to just be who you are should be more than just tolerating your existence. And it is like very difficult. It is very difficult because, like, you were saying, Donnie, it's part of like the education. It's part, not just like the school education, but it's part of the way that all of us have been raised. We've been raised systematically to think that this is wrong, and that a lot of this is a choice, a lot of this is like the devil, and it's going to take a lot outside of just policy to create a ideology, create a generation that sees it beyond just it being wrong. It's going to take a lot of
Right.
Yeah.
like erasure, re-education, and yeah, that's not that easily changed. So it's a very complicated thing. But I think that having the ability to like go back to African traditions, go back to African history, and highlight how these things, African traditions were diverse. Like diversity, inclusion is part of African traditions. When you see African deities, we don't like Christianity and Islam. It's just the Christianity is like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. When you see West African deities, there's women, there's men, there's the woman that embraces sexuality, there's the woman that is nurturing, there's the man that is the warrior, there's the man that protects the dead. Inclusivity and diversity has always been part of African culture. So it doesn't make
Right.
sense how we think that this is a Western thing. It's just we've erased this part of our identity, and it's causing a lot of our brothers and sisters to be in pain. And that's the worst part of it. A lot of them are not feeling safe because we can't acknowledge the diversity that was embedded in these cultures.
That is interesting. That is interesting. I do recall learning of a particular tribe in Nigeria that is, as you said, but I didn't realize that same was for Kenya, Angola, and Uganda. You said?
Yeah, I like there's King Mwanga, I think, from now what is, I think, from the region that is now called Uganda. There was a king that was married to a man. There was Queen
Wow.
Ninga, that is also part of a tribe that was part of that is now Angola, that also was married to a woman. There's words in Yoruba and in Hausa that talk about same-sex couples. There's ethnic groups that believe, for example, in Kenya, that the spirit of a grandfather has embodied someone. So even if you're a woman, the spirit of the grandfather embodied another woman, you're still allowed to marry them. So like same-sex
Oh,
marriages are
okay.
happening, and it's not just because the way that Europe considers same-sex homosexuality, heterosexuality, is very limited to how diverse the African history considered it. Because one of the biggest and most interesting elements was that there was spirituality involved. It was a spiritual thing. There were certain beliefs, even in Native American beliefs, that people that were what we would call now transsexual or asexual were spirits of the gods. They were the ones that became priests because they connected with both the femininity and the masculinity. So they were the ones in charge
Oh,
to um, do like sacrifices and things like that. So it was so
right.
diverse and so interesting and complex. And now we lost all of that. We lost all of that knowledge, and as a consequence of losing knowledge, we believe what we believe now.
Mm,
Okay.
that is really insightful. Very insightful. Very
Yeah.
insightful. Definitely. That is going to let me research that a bit more on that level.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing that. Hey, Nene, are you good?
yeah,
Yeah, good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
We're going into our last minute. I really want to hear from you, Nene. Did you even get any of the news regarding police shutting down the LGBTQ community? And do you think like why? Yeah, do you think Ghana is ready for it?
No, I personally I think Ghana is not ready for it because I would say 99% of the population, because this whole thing is centered around culture and religion, and knowing Ghana is more of a religious country also, and also we hold culture also at heart. So it's more like an introduction of something which actually doesn't conform to religion, and also something that doesn't conform to their culture. So it's quite difficult to accept such thing. And also I believe that things like this
Hmm.
are more of private things. They are more private than it's like bringing something out of the private and making it national. So it's more like imposing your private things on me. So if
Right.
you legalize
Mhm.
this, and yeah, if this is legalized and it's being practiced, so then it's more or less like a loss in certain values pertaining to culture
Mm,
and pertaining to religion. Psychologically, I would say Ghana is not ready. It's not ready for it, and they are not. I don't know, but Ghana is not ready for it, and it's not prepared to accept it.
mm,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right. And from your experience, because here in the Netherlands, all is liberal, all is free. And
Mhm.
then in Ghana, it's well, the example is Ghana. I know in Uganda as it is now, it's more. I think they're more rough than Ghanaian countries are, or just some of the West African countries are. Some of the countries are very, very strict. They don't tolerate it. Even if there is a suspicion, they will come and arrest you. In
Yeah.
Ghana, there are a few of the incidents that I've heard are really more or less the example I named out, where like one person who is attracted to the same sex went and met somebody through social media, end up being raped, but he couldn't report it because he then had to confess, like, okay, I met somebody for that, for to have a date, basically. Um,
Mhm.
so it's not like these examples. They are more as aggressive to finding who they think is, gay, and then arresting them and things like that. We live in a very liberal environment, and some would say, you know what, it doesn't affect any person who doesn't share that same standpoint. So why can't countries like Curacao or Ghana or something like that then take it? Um, what do you think is like some of the what are your observations concerning that?
Pertaining to how it's easily accepted in the Western culture and
Yeah, like here,
not accepted.
yeah, the liberal environments that we have here compared to the ones in Ghana. Like why do you think it would be a problem for them to accept it
Yeah. Then
like that?
again, it comes down to, because because then again, it's there is something as Western culture, and Western culture also has it's different from the culture from Ghana. So when you look at
Right.
the Western culture, there are pros and cons to every culture. The Western culture is
Right.
quite tolerant. I would say it's quite liberal compared to the Ghanaian culture. The Ghanaian culture is very strict on certain things, which has to do with this, and the Western culture doesn't actually. It depends on its perspective. It's The Western culture doesn't see anything wrong, and they don't see how it affects national development. So then we go
Right.
ahead. And as I said, Ghana is more religious, and they're more most of their values is centered around culture. Something that has to do, like, it's also a cultural country.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if I would say what the West, yes, Western culture, and then we have our Ghanaian culture. The Western culture is quite receptive to certain things, but our Ghanaian culture is not receptive to certain things. It's quite strict, I'll say, quite strict to. And
Mm.
then with the Western culture, as far as it's not taking away lives, then why not? If it's not
Right.
taking away lives, then why not? But then, as I said, it's based around religion and culture. So the Western culture is quite liberal, and for the Ghanaian culture, it's
But
really strict and frowns to certain things that actually devalues its culture. Yeah.
which is fair if you say that. But some would say, and I think Liz already said it. The Ghanaian culture or African culture is actually very diverse and more diverse than what we think is now the liberal Western culture. African culture, like, and also what I've collected from like readings and stuff, since this issue came up is the fact that the Ghanaian community, they don't mind this LGBTQ community like being around. Why? They have always been there. Like Ghana's at this point, right? So, and we all know probably someone who's gay, but we never intended to harm them or anything. Or
Right.
right? So of course you will find instances or small cases where yes, atrocities happen to them. And maybe in a village or this and that. But I see those as, that like Ghana is very moderate. Ghana is a peaceful place. Um, Homosexuality is illegal. And marriage as well. They're, sentenced or whatnot. However, this is a um, this is something that hasn't. It's not really enforced. But again, it's not protected either. When it becomes a case of legality, then yes, Ghanaians are saying no at all. However, within the social community, I mean, they know a gay living or a homosexual living next door, and they don't harass that person because he's an homosexual. So, like amongst ourselves, I think there isn't any animosity or anything, but just when it becomes like a national or a legality issue, like I think you said, Nene, then it becomes yes, it's imposing, or Miss Ava said it becomes imposing. But to say that the Western culture is more liberal than the African culture, I would say I would I would have to side with Liz that no, African culture is rather more diverse because we've had these people with us from the in the beginning of civilization, and if civilization started in Africa, then how are we less tolerant, to these individuals than those who just build their civilization, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I think I just wanted to add,
maybe
like,
less control.
if you think about Western culture and you think about liberation, you've forgotten a lot of the Western history. the fact that these laws about gender equality and all these things are there is not because the Western culture was liberal. It was because people fought and died for it, and people are still fighting and died for certain liberation. Western culture is oppression. Western culture is violence. It's historically
Right.
decades and decades, decades they've been doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing in Congo. They're doing the same thing in all these countries. Who do you think they're sending to help these policies in Uganda? They're sending white pastors from the U.S. to talk to these presidents and these policymakers. They're the one talking and saying that God doesn't want this. God wants us to follow and persecute these people. Western culture is not liberated at all. I think that is, I think that is what they want us to think. That is what their superiority complex tells us. But if we actually tap into African history and African spirituality and African cultures, we can understand a more open and diverse perspective. And I think
Mhm.
one of the things is that once people are not safe, once people are not having access to basic things, health, safety, job security, it's not a private thing anymore. It is us as a community and us as a government. People have the right to be safe, no matter who they are.
Mm,
They
Mhm.
shouldn't be treated, don't have safety because they're gay, and that becomes a national issue. And I hope because of the diverse and inclusive history and legacy that many African ethnic groups and traditions have, maybe we don't have to do the same, towards the same road as Western cultures, which was fighting and dying and protesting and dying and all those things to get to a space where tolerance becomes acceptance. Because it's, if one person is feeling unsafe in a community, that affects a community. It's not when, because we talk about, oh, the LGBT community is part of the Ghanaian community. They are the Ghanaian community. It's not a foreign community. It's part of the idea. It's always been there. It's not an external thing.
mhm,
So how can we create understandings that allow them to exist even in our languages, even in our culture? That's why I keep saying tolerance is not enough anymore, because people are unsafe. There's systematic rape of women that are seen as gay in South Africa. Those things become national issues, and we need to do things to change that. And one of the things that we need to do, which I believe in, is creating knowledge, creating ideas, going back to perceptions that allow us to see that this is not a Western impediment. It's not the liberal West coming to impose things from us. It's things that we already
mhm,
have so complex and so inclusive ways of seeing it, that they took away, or we also took away from, we erased from our legacy. Like in Curacao, for example, there was I don't remember his name. He's one of the biggest musicians in a cultural music in Curacao. He has a museum and all of that in Curacao, but he was gay and he had a partner living in the 1960s. Everybody was open, everybody allowed it because he was still popular, he was still selling his music, and he's still recognized to the point that he has his own museum. But not one time do they say that he was gay. Not one time do they acknowledge that he connected to African spirituality and homosexuality, and that he was part of our society, even in the
Mm.
60s. And erasures like
mhm,
that allow us to keep believing that, oh, this is not part of our culture, or culture will not accept it, because we keep erasing it. We keep erasing these things just to justify certain beliefs. And that's dangerous. Once we allow ourselves
yeah,
and our structures to erase the realities of our people, the parts of our community that are most marginalized are going to keep being marginalized by our own systems. And we justify it by saying it's culture. It's not culture. We're erasing these legacies. We're erasing these stories, and the erasure of stories causes oppression. And the best erasure of stories happen when the West comes in. West is not known by liberation. West is known by, we fought so hard that we not have not given you another choice. You have to give us our freedom. That's what Western cultures have done. So they can come and say, "Oh, you Ghanaians have to do this, well, because we believe in human rights." Like, you still have companies that are exploiting people in India and exploiting people in Africa, and you're not doing nothing about it. It's not. This is not an issue of us versus the West. This is an issue of us going back to our roots and our understanding that this is not something new. It's not something foreign. It's part of who we are. It's always been there.
Mm.
Yeah.
That gives me a
Yeah.
lot to think about. Like, really, it's like you have to kind of reorganize. You now think of like, okay, Africans, this is erased, so they're tapping into what's what's
Yeah.
what's been given into them. Like, I really need
Yeah.
to, but it does offer
Yeah.
a good perspective, really.
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
yeah, you don't see this
yeah,
coming up in the conversations that arise
no,
a lot,
Yeah.
that arise. I
and
really
And
and it's not just African culture. Like, Native American culture have recollections of like multiple perspectives beyond like men and women. Indian cultures, Indian gods have been like androgynous and things like that. So a lot of
right.
non-Western cultures have understood that just a man and a woman is too limiting. Even the perceptions, for example, of what a woman is. There's a book
Hmm.
called The Construction of Women in Nigeria. And they were saying like women were leaders in like what is called Nigeria now. Women were always leaders, women were part of the community, head of communities. But once the West came, they were like only men. The assumption is that man is automatically a leader. So it broke so many structures because all of the leaders were just assigned by gender now. So there was a dismantling of the complete um, structure of leadership and guidance that Nigeria had. And till today, we're still upholding this idea that a woman cannot be president. They were interviewing Nigerians on the street, and Nigerians would say a woman cannot be president. But pre-colonial evidence showed that women were leaders. It was not even a thought of saying like, "Oh, you're a woman, so you can't be a leader." It was part of who
Right,
we were until the
right.
West came and redesigned what womanhood meant.
Yeah.
mm, so it's like I understand. So that like there's this whole big confusion where it's I think in
Yeah, but
to really see what has to
yeah,
be done or how to educate the people is to make the distinction what is African culture and what is everything else. What is a religion? What is Western culture? What is Indian culture that has influenced the African culture? But if we can get back to the core of African culture and we can find that and take that as the highest culture or tradition to uphold, then I think we can get to the roots or to the we can get closer to how to deal with um yeah how to deal with ourselves, how to deal with our homosexuality amongst us, how to deal with the different genders amongst us, how to deal with the sick, how to deal with the elderly people amongst us, right? But you know, it's being yeah, I think yeah, other influences, religion and other civilizations or other the Western influences have kind of like diluted what we know as African culture. So everything that we think is actually African culture could be religion and could be something else, but we just don't know it yet because we just don't have had enough information. So yeah, that education is extremely important. I
Hmm.
think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Before we round up, Nene had
yeah.
also
And
had
just
something
to add
to.
something,
Hmm.
yeah,
yeah. But my question is, yeah, but what I want to say is, if we find if we can culture, or we go into the core of African culture and we happen to find things, so why would they erase them? Why would they erase them now and make it look like there was nothing like that there? For me, I think probably it was religiously. I would say, for instance, in Sodom and Gomorrah, when this thing was practiced, okay, it was something which Christianity was frowned against. So that caused God to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. That's in the religious aspect of it. But if we visit the core of our culture and we happen to think why would they erase it? Why would they erase it and not talk about it now and makes it look like, okay, because had it, it was something which was accepted, but now it's not accepted. That is my question. Why that?
Because the same forces who told you that Sodom and Gomorrah um, practiced, well, there was homosexual sexuality practiced Sodom and Gomorrah and got erased. And the wrath of God came upon them. Those are the same people who are now telling you how to deal with homos. Those are the ones who erased how you dealt with homosexuality within your community, and those are the same ones who are telling you how to deal with them now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think.
I think there's an important thing. Knowledge is power. And if we think that knowledge is all like accessible, knowledge is always controlled. We are always, because we cannot access everything at the same time. So there are systems that tell us what is important and what is not. And there are also systems that erase certain elements that affect identity. We've seen it with Black people. Black inventors have had their ideas taken away from them and their names have been erased. Black women, for example, in the Black Panther movie, when we talk about Black revolutionary in the U.S., for example, we don't talk about the Black women. We talk about the Black Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, but the women have been erased because leadership and dominance is seen as a male thing. All these erasure happens all the time. It's not something new or oh, it's a conspiracy. It's just erasure. Once you erase certain elements of history, you can control the narrative. It's even in the Bible that you're talking about. Certain elements, like the book of, for example, Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene also wrote about her experience with God, but her book was not chosen to be part of the gospel because that part did not fit the idea or the logic of the male dominant following of Jesus, the leaders. Erasure happens all the time. And just to add another point, culture, like I say, I don't believe in like the original culture. Like I believe in like culture's alive, it's evolving. So the beliefs we have, like Sodom and Gomorrah, religion, Christianity, Islam, all of these things are becoming part of our culture now. It's evolving, affecting who we are. But once we start combining those elements with other stories that have been erased, I think that can allow for us to deal with, because this is a very complex issue. I don't think it's simple. I don't think just highlighting these elements, like historic elements, is gonna like fix everything, because this is also an emotional thing, it's an identity thing. Because especially, for example, as me as Christian, I have been fundamentally raised to think that this is morally wrong. This is a morality issue. And once you think about it like that, it's very hard to be open-minded about it. So it's a very, very, very complex issue. But I think one step that we can do is acknowledge that erasure is a thing. History has been changed and affected. Like there's a saying that says like the story of the lion was written by the hunter. We don't see the whole perspective, and certain elements are being removed to justify, for example, white superiority or white dominance or things like that. So if we go deeper and dig, because this is not like, these informations are not just out there, you have to go through them and understand and be open to see this research. So
Right.
understanding that erasure is part of how knowledge evolves and how knowledge moves. It's part of our reality, because knowledge is
Right.
power. Knowledge is power.
Right. On that note, you have given me so much to research. And I think that next month we should
Yeah, please.
definitely we should definitely continue this conversation. Obviously, we've gone so much over time, and really
Well,
discuss about
but
that. And I think we
personally,
can, mhm. Yeah,
Yes, is the name.
Well,
and then it,
well, personally, I think this is it's more of a personal choice. Yeah, it's more of a personal choice than making it or I felt at a point in time legalizing things like this is more like imposing a private something private to on me, because then it's like I'm forced to conform to maybe something that's I personally cannot accept. So
It's not about you.
it's
right,
I believe it's a personal choice. If it's a personal choice, what it's a personal choice. So what should be kept there. Should be kept there. I think should be kept there, and I don't think even this is a
right,
matter that should be debatable in a sense that as far as because the talk it's something that wants to be talked about because then certain aspect or certain private things that wants to go public, they uh, wants to normalize. They want to it's like we want to normalize something to make so that we can flow freely in public.
right,
That's but I know
right.
it's a personal choice, and if it's more private, it should just be in the private. Yeah.
Okay, hold that on that note. I'm going to take notes of that one so that we continue on that one next month. And I think it would be good to also look at what we regard as culture, what we Africans regard as our culture. I think it would be good and to really look at, how that reflects some of our modern day things and our how we go about and how we treat each other.
Mm,
Unfortunately, because of
yes.
time, I have to close it up so that we continue on this topic. And again, thanks so much, Liz and Nene, for being our usual guests on Let's Chat Africa. We should definitely do this. Just say, let's just say once a month, if that it could be possible within the time, because this is a needed conversation.
Mm.
We just have 1 minute before we round up. So again, thanks Nene and Liz. Where can people find you online? And yes, we're going to continue this conversation.
Yes. They can find me on Instagram at Les Camellia. I just joined Clubhouse 2 days ago, but I don't know how it works still. So maybe next time I'll send that link too.
Tutorials are for that.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about you, Nene? Nowhere. It's like freezing on this smooth look.
Mhm.
Okay, no. I think his internet connection is giving him trouble. Well, thanks again, Liz and Nene. We'll be catching up, sending you an email, of course, ASAP. And have a good and healthy week. Okay, bye
Yes. Thank you.
Ghana
Bye.
64.
bye. Okay, so that was really educative. I learned a lot. I did, and I know I've again taken your time. I know, but it's good. It's good if
So
we
good.
can continue this conversation. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it's worthwhile, to talk about this. Especially also, I do think that we should have this conversation because I am in my faith. Obviously,
Yeah.
my faith doesn't approve the lifestyle, but it doesn't disconnect me from talking about it and talking to other people.
Mm.
And I
Right.
believe that in spite of our my faith helps me to look at, or let's just say reason things in the way that it does. But
Mhm.
in no shape or form do I support any harsh or no mistreatment of a brother or
Yeah.
sister, out there, whether
Yeah.
regardless of their sexuality. So
Exactly
that's
right.
really where I stand on that. I'm not afraid to talk about it, from different perspective and things. I might not agree with it personally. I might
Right.
see the reasons for it as something else. I might have my own spiritual explanation for it, but
Hmm.
seeing people being harassed, killed, and stuff like that, I don't think that is what we should be doing. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Donny, for being on with me next week. It is time to discuss that news flash. We should go through all of that listing.
Yes.
Absolutely. And for those of you who missed any of our episodes come on all streaming platforms every Wednesday. The recap of the show. We are a bit behind, but trust me, some of these conversations that have been on there are really well listened. People are appreciating them. So do listen to many global Africans from the likes of Dinta Mwateng, Nemo, Eddie Kadi, people in agribusiness and so forth that we've had on the show to talk about how we can change that environment that we are in. I'm your host, Miss Abba, and alongside Donny, we'll be catching us next week, 7 p.m. CET. We'll be ending off with a Ghana classic, again, last day of Independence Day. Let's celebrate another Castro Destroyer song, and let's go for
Yes.
it.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, D Black.
It's black music, baby.
D Black. Yeah. You be my personal. If you in love, you be my person. Yeah. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah. It's your person, Mindy, you want grow. Too bad, you want grow. Too fine, too bad. Mindy, wanna go. I know you feel like you. First time I met you, you was chilling with your girls and yeah. I ain't know how to reach you. You was rolling with your best friends, yeah. See, I didn't want to stress you, so I told all my boys and yeah. They connected us two. When I smiled and you said hi, yeah. Anytime when you smiled, I see my head start bash me. And I don't understand how this love fit catch me. One place, one girl, Sunday. You make a concept, this can be. See, the first thing I said was how big. Deaf guy, mom die, I shan't be. Big, you make her feel some can't wait. See the party closer for the top gate. Just one thing, phone number. When you catch house, I go holla. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah. And you person, Maybe you want to go. Too bad, you really want to go. Too fine, and you go. Too bad, really want to go. I know the feel of you. Yeah. Come on, I start to go safe. How to love you more and more. You know how to do stride and you ain't let it in and you show them all the duh, baby. This thing is really try, and I know so the feeling be we try. Just mark here, we could do some weather, we could pop off. Brutal, baby girl, it's your birthday, go down. Everybody say you the flyest girl in the city, in my heart so glad that they know now. Baby, go down, happy girl, I say go down. Go down, I say see girl, I'm go down. Baby, go down, baby girl, go down. Baby, go down. My sexy girl, go down. You be the baddest among the rest. What? It's a job with. That's all the side. Yanko. Oh, baby, need bank cry. I want Jelly. I don't go need of you. You be my true love. Many wanna go. You can't conquer Pampa, get it. Matilla Jiro, Matilla Jiro, my person, I got. There's a good old just to put my hobby, get me and a key. I go fly with you, I go change your life, I go die with you, make you change your life. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah. You be my person, yeah.
Baby, go down, back the girl, I say go down, ah, go down, my sexy girl, go down, baby, go down, baby, girl, go down, baby, go down, my sexy girl, go down, go. Oh yeah, da 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 da. Oh yeah.
You see your life. Be black. Castro. Love is a blessing.
High spirit, never say never, never. My shine, my source, my strength come from God. I say judgment again, I cash go again. All of fofo, make you carry anything man go do, them go talk about you. Them go try say make you confused. Now so nya me am gonna hot see for anything man go do. Them go talk about you. Them go try say make you confused. It no be me I do, it be Baba God. Yeah, them they wonder. Say you me and I still they conquer. Yeah, oh Lord. Yeah, them they wonder. Say you me and I still they conquer. My best Olofofo won't fake me. They want to come out meaty for my body. Anything I do, then start to the body. If you want to Olofofo won't fake me. They want to come out meaty for my body. Anything I do, then start to the body. If you want to you wish. I don't know, yes, I. And I am into any better than you. Into my summer best friend. You wish. What love for four, then plenty anywhere where you can go. Many things what them they do, then they criticize, oh, they know what makes you leave, oh, yeah. See them, then they go. Anything with them do, then they go. Oh, love for four, then they go. Then they talk too much, oh. Anything you do, see them they criticize you, but you bad then you could go, they talk about you for no reason, they say they want to kill you. Them be ropo, see then they popo, Castro. See them, then they ropo, hey, more than they choke, cut with dust, popo. Let them go them way, yo, popo. Ha! Anything man go do, them go talk about you. Them go try say make you confused. Now so nya me am gonna hot see for anything man go do. Them go talk about you. Them go try say make you confused. It no be me I do, it be Baba God. Yeah, them they wonder. See me and I still they conquer. Yeah, oh Lord. Yeah, them they wonder. See me and I still they conquer. Yeah, I bless you. Oh, personality, tell me my personality, Kenny.